The entrance is easy to miss. In the small town of Derinkuyu in central Turkey, a simple doorway leads down a narrow staircase carved into the earth. From the outside, nothing suggests that beneath this quiet neighborhood lies one of the most unusual structures ever built by human hands. But a few steps down, the air changes. The temperature drops. The light fades. The passage narrows until the stone walls are close enough to touch on both sides. And then the staircase continues deeper. Beneath the surface of this town exists a vast underground city, layer after layer of tunnels, chambers, stairways, storage rooms, wells, and ventilation shafts. Archaeologists estimate the system extends roughly 60 meters below ground. That is about the height of a 20-story building. Even more surprising is how many people it could support. Researchers believe that, during times of danger, more than 20,000 people could live inside these tunnels at the same time. Families, livestock, food supplies, entire communities, all hidden beneath the earth. For a place capable of sheltering so many people, the first question feels almost unavoidable. Why build a city underground? Derinkuyu sits in a region of Turkey called Cappadocia, a landscape shaped by ancient volcanic eruptions. Millions of years ago, layers of ash and lava hardened into a soft rock known as tuff. Unlike granite or basalt, tuff can be carved with relatively simple tools. Over centuries, people in this region learned they could cut homes directly into the stone hillsides. Across Cappadocia today, you can still see these carved dwellings. Entire villages were once built into the rock itself. Churches were hollowed out inside cliffs. Storage rooms and tunnels connected different chambers beneath the ground. But Derinkuyu was something far larger. Instead of carving small homes or storage caves, someone began digging deeper, creating corridors that connected dozens of underground rooms. Then deeper still, as the tunnels expanded, the underground complex slowly transformed into something that resembled a hidden city. The deeper levels contained wells that reached underground water sources. Large chambers served as communal spaces where people could gather. Storage rooms held grain and dried food that could last for months. Ventilation shafts allowed fresh air to circulate through the tunnels. One shaft alone extends more than 50 meters upward to the surface. Without this airflow, the underground rooms would have quickly filled with smoke and stale air. But perhaps the most unusual feature appears at certain points in the corridors. Massive circular stone doors. These doors look like giant stone wheels, carved from solid rock. Some are more than a meter wide and weigh hundreds of kilograms. When rolled into place, the stone blocks could seal entire tunnels. From the outside, they were extremely difficult to move. From the inside, however, a small handle allowed residents to slide the door into position. It was a defensive system, which brings us back to the question that hangs over Derinkuyu. What kind of danger required a city to disappear underground? To understand that, it helps to consider where Cappadocia sits on the map. This region lies near the crossroads of several ancient civilizations. Over thousands of years, empires expanded through this landscape, sometimes peacefully, but often through conquest. Armies marched across these valleys during different periods of history. Persians, Romans, Byzantine. Later, Arab forces pushed northward through parts of Anatolia. Each wave of conflict brought the same risk to small communities scattered across the region. Invasion. When armies moved through an area, villages were often vulnerable. Homes could be destroyed, crops taken, livestock seized. For communities living in Cappadocia, survival sometimes depended on disappearing before soldiers arrived. And that is where underground spaces became valuable. Smaller caves had long been used as temporary shelters during raids. Families could hide food supplies or valuables underground, but Derinkuyu suggests a much more organized approach. Instead of scattered hiding places, the tunnels appear designed to support entire populations for extended periods. Rooms were arranged across multiple levels. Living areas were separated from food storage chambers. Some spaces may have been used as kitchens or gathering rooms. There are even areas that resemble small schools or chapels, suggesting that life continued underground while danger passed above. Yet the deeper researchers study the city, the more complicated the story becomes. Because Derinkuyu was not built all at once. Archaeological evidence suggests the earliest sections may date back more than 2,000 years. Some historians believe the first tunnels were created during the time of the ancient Phrygians, a civilization that lived in Anatolia long before the Roman Empire reached the region. Later generations appear to have expanded the tunnels. New corridors connected older chambers. Additional levels were carved deeper into the rock. Ventilation systems were extended to reach fresh air from the surface. By the Byzantine period, roughly between the 4th and 11th centuries, the underground complex may have reached its largest size. At that point, Derinkuyu had become something extraordinary, a city beneath a city. And yet, for centuries, the tunnels were largely forgotten. By the 20th century, most residents of the modern town above had little idea how extensive the underground system really was. People knew about small caves and storage rooms beneath some homes. That was common in Cappadocia, but the deeper levels remained sealed. Then, in the early 1960s, something unexpected happened. A local homeowner began renovating part of his house. During the work, he noticed a strange opening behind one of the walls. Curious, he knocked through the stone. Behind it was a tunnel. At first it seemed like a simple passage, but as explorers followed the corridor, they discovered something far larger. The tunnel connected to a network of rooms. Those rooms connected to stairways. The stairways led deeper into chambers no one in the town had seen for generations. What the homeowner had accidentally opened was the entrance to the lost underground city. Over time, archaeologists and engineers began mapping the tunnels. They discovered multiple levels descending deep into the earth. Passageways stretched outward from the central shafts. Rooms appeared in unexpected places, some large enough to hold dozens of people. Slowly, the scale of Derinkuyu became clear. This was not a small refuge. It was a fully designed underground settlement. And yet, one mystery remained difficult to answer. Even if communities needed protection from invading armies, why dig a refuge this deep? Hiding underground for a few days might make sense. But Derinkuyu was built to sustain life for much longer. Food storage, air circulation, water wells, everything required for survival during extended isolation, which raises an unsettling possibility. What if the people who built Derinkuyu expected danger to last not days, but months? If you enjoy exploring hidden history like this, more stories like it appear here. The deeper researchers studied Derinkuyu, the clearer one thing became: this underground city was not built for a short escape. Everything about the design suggests preparation for long periods below the surface. Food storage chambers appear throughout the complex. Some rooms were large enough to hold grain supplies for entire communities. Stone troughs suggest that livestock, sheep, or goats were also brought underground when danger approached. That detail matters. Animals provided milk, meat, and warmth, but they also required space, food, and air. Designing tunnels that could support both people and animals meant planners were thinking carefully about survival, and survival underground required one resource more important than any other: air. Without ventilation, thousands of people hiding beneath the earth would quickly run out of breathable air. Smoke from cooking fires would accumulate. Oxygen levels would drop. But Derinkuyu's builders solved that problem with an unusual feature: vertical shafts carved straight upward through the rock. One of the main ventilation shafts stretches roughly 55 meters to the surface, about the height of an 18-story building. Smaller channels branch off from this shaft, allowing air to circulate throughout the different levels. Even today, visitors walking through parts of the city sometimes feel cool air moving through the tunnels. It is a quiet reminder that this place was engineered for life underground. Water was another challenge. If people were hiding during a siege or invasion, traveling to surface wells would have been dangerous. So the underground city included its own internal water system. Some wells connected directly to underground water sources. Others were designed so that people inside the city could access water while preventing outsiders above from poisoning the supply. This suggests the tunnels were not simply a refuge. They were part of a defensive strategy. Stone doors could seal off corridors. Narrow passageways forced visitors to move single file, making it easier to defend the city from intruders. From a military perspective, the design created a powerful advantage. Attackers unfamiliar with the tunnels would struggle to navigate the maze of passages. Residents, however, knew every corridor and chamber. But an even more surprising discovery emerged as archaeologists continued exploring the region. Derinkuyu was not alone. Across Cappadocia, researchers have identified dozens of underground settlements carved into the same volcanic rock. Some are small networks of caves. Others extend across multiple levels, similar to Derinkuyu. One nearby site, Cappadocia, forms another large underground complex connected through miles of tunnels and chambers. Taken together, these cities suggest something remarkable. Entire populations in this region may have relied on underground refuges during periods of instability, and history offers several moments when such protection might have been necessary. During the early centuries of the Byzantine Empire, Cappadocia sat near the frontier between competing powers. Raids and conflicts were not uncommon. Later, beginning around the 7th century, Arab-Byzantine wars brought repeated military campaigns across parts of Anatolia. Communities living in exposed valleys needed ways to survive sudden attacks. An underground refuge offered a solution. When warning signs appeared approaching armies, distant smoke, messengers arriving from nearby villages, residents could move quickly into the tunnels. Livestock would be guided underground. Food stores sealed inside storage rooms. Stone doors rolled into position. Above ground, the village might appear abandoned. Below, life continued in darkness. It is difficult to know exactly how long people stayed inside during these periods. Historical records are limited, and much of what archaeologists understand comes from the design of the tunnels themselves. But some clues suggest the underground cities could sustain life for extended periods. Communal rooms appear large enough for gatherings or religious services. Carved niches may have held oil lamps to provide light. Ventilation systems allowed smoke from cooking fires to escape through vertical shafts. Daily routines likely adapted to the unusual environment. Children would have grown up hearing footsteps echo through stone corridors. Families shared confined spaces where sound carried easily between rooms. Outside, the world might have been uncertain or dangerous. Inside, the tunnels offered protection. Over time, however, the need for these underground refuges gradually declined. Political borders shifted. New trade routes formed. The region experienced long stretches of relative stability. As threats from raids decreased, communities spent less time in the hidden cities. The tunnels were not abandoned entirely. Some rooms continued to serve as storage areas. Others became cool places to keep food during hot summers. But the deeper levels slowly faded from daily life. Entrances collapsed, corridors filled with debris. Knowledge of the full underground system began to disappear. By the 20th century, many residents in Cappadocia were only aware of the smaller caves beneath their homes. The deeper cities, Derinkuyu among them, were largely forgotten, until that accidental discovery in the 1960s reopened the tunnels. Since then, archaeologists and engineers have carefully studied the underground complex. Sections of Derinkuyu have been stabilized and opened to visitors, allowing people to walk through parts of the ancient city. Moving through the tunnels today can feel strangely quiet. Stone stairways descend into narrow corridors. Chambers open suddenly from the walls. Ventilation shafts rise like dark columns disappearing toward the surface. Standing inside these spaces, it becomes easier to imagine what life here might have felt like centuries ago. Families whispering in low light, footsteps echoing along stone floors, the sound of distant wind passing through ventilation shafts. Above them, armies might have moved across the valley, but beneath the ground, an entire community waited safely out of sight. Derinkuyu reveals something interesting about how humans adapt to uncertainty. When geography allows it, people sometimes reshape the landscape itself in order to survive. In Cappadocia, the soft volcanic rock made it possible to carve homes, churches, and entire cities underground. What began as simple shelters slowly evolved into a complex system of hidden settlements designed to protect entire populations. And even today, the underground city still exists beneath the quiet town above it. Visitors walk down the same stairways carved centuries ago. The air still moves through the same ventilation shafts. The same stone doors still rest in their grooves along narrow corridors. Most modern cities expand upward, Derinkuyu expanded downward, and it leaves one lingering question. If such enormous underground refuges could remain hidden for centuries beneath ordinary towns, how many other forgotten systems might still exist quietly beneath the places where people live today?